Decision Diaries.
Welcome to Decision Diaries. Today on Decision Diaries, I have a special guest, somebody who I've known since I want to say 7th grade. And today we are talking about the decision to go into to really commit, honestly, to being an actress and model and theater. I mean, you really committed. So the person I have with me today is Charity James Hudnut, also Charity Nicole James by
Yeah.
your
stage
acting name, stage name. Yes. So welcome, Charity. I think the last time I saw you, I'm gonna age myself, it's fine, was probably Airband 1988.
Oh my gosh. That's a long time ago.
Yeah,
That's
so you're gonna have to
amazing.
take me from
You remember
there.
that. You remember
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
It's very
So
fun.
take me from there. What did you do? It sounded like you actually majored in college.
I did. Yeah, I randomly ended up at Jacksonville University, and it wasn't random. I mean, my boyfriend at the time was going there, and I had been accepted to a couple of the bigger universities at UF, FSU, but they were really big and kind of intimidating when I went to see them. And JU was really smaller, and I liked it. And then I auditioned for the Bob Hope Scholarship, and I won. So I ended up getting the Bob Hope Scholarship, which was really great. It made it like an easy decision. And at the time, they didn't have a music theater major. So I had a double major of classical music and theater. So I ended up having 2 majors. And just loved it. It was really fun. It was fun because it's a smaller school. I ended up being the lead my first year. My freshman year, I was the lead in the first play called Death Takes a Holiday. And I modeled through high school and then through college. I still model remember Pick and Save?
Oh yeah. Yeah. A lot of
all that fun stuff. So I did a lot of that stuff in Jacksonville. Gator Bowl, Queen's Court. I think my freshman year, I ended up getting chosen to do that. I was on the Queen's Court, and it still did all the pageants, all that fun stuff. My grandfather loved me doing all that stuff. So I did that, but then ended up moving to New York City. I was married once before, and he was working in New York City on Broadway as a general manager at their office. And so I lived in New York. So I kind of thrown into the fire right after college, auditioning and learning a whole new world of what it meant to be a nobody.
Oh, well, let me back you up for a second, because you already covered quite a lot. So first of all, I gotta connect all the dots here. I'm slow. So is the Bob Hope Scholarship still available? Is this like a legacy?
I have no idea. That was a thing because at the time the chancellor was Frances Kinney. So she, at the school at JU, she was good friends with Bob Hope. She actually knew him. And so they set up this scholarship that you could audition for. And so I have no idea, because unfortunately she lived to be I want to say 100, and she just passed away not too long ago. But that's how it originally came about. She was president at the time, and she became chancellor. And so she was always a big part of it and was very, very involved. Even with my sorority, she was part of our philanthropy. So Frances Kinney was the reason why she was the reason why that scholarship existed. And it really was great, because it helped really offset, to be able to go to school there, which is wonderful. And so I have no idea if it is or not, but it was great. I loved it. So
yeah. Well, so did the school help you make the transition to New York, or did they just tell you that's what you need to do, or you just knew? No. How did you know?
I was marrying Matt Rimmer. So Matt and I met in college, and he obviously he'd gone in to get his master's. He was 2 years older than me. So he'd gotten his master's in Cincinnati and went straight to Broadway to work for Ellen Wasser and Associates, which is the general managers for Les Miserables and Miss Saigon and Phantom of the Opera. So he went to go work for them right away. And since we were getting married, it was, I had to go move there and then start working. And so the majority of my jobs were modeling. I worked for Nine West for years as a foot model because I had the right size shoe, right size
Really?
fit,
Oh
size
my gosh.
fit.
Oh,
So
okay. How do you audition for a foot model? I mean,
it's
what
just
the
called a go see. They call them go sees. So you go see this person, and they're going to look at your foot, and so see if they like how you walk. So it's just it was they had the shoe shows, and so I became a regular Nine West shoe model, and they started flying a group of us around the country. Like we do the Texas show, and we do the Las Vegas show, and it was hysterical. It was all choreographed. We had to change our feet a whole bunch of times of all our shoes. So change our feet,
well,
change our shoes all the time. So it was
so they
hysterical,
flew
but it
you
was really great
around?
fun.
Yeah,
Huh?
there's so much. Okay. Okay, shoe modeling. So shoe modeling, you walk a runway with shoes, or they
Yeah,
just do
it was
like
a
a
whole like think of a coordinated, like totally coordinated show, right? With dancing and the whole thing. And you have to go behind the screen and like sometimes change your entire outfit and then change the shoes you're doing and then go back out and do the whole. So it was a whole production. They did production. It was a production thing. So yeah, so that I did that, and then I also immediately started working for Mattel. I was Barbie for years. So
oh, how timely.
yeah, it's all timely. I know, right? Right?
Really
It's
great
all
timing, but yeah,
timely.
I could see
Yeah,
that. I could see you
yeah.
as Barbie, and everybody's gonna be like, "Oh my gosh, you've got to post a picture." You don't do you have a picture of yourself as
I
Barbie?
posted on my Facebook when Barbie the movie came out. I put some funny pictures on my Facebook, the different Barbies that I was, because I actually I did a lot. So I mean, the first year I did that was like, oh gosh, 93, I think. And so I worked for them for like 6 years. And again, I became like a regular Barbie. So they flew me to Atlanta for the Olympics, and I was Olympic gymnast Barbie. And so I went and signed boxes for grown men who stood in line at Macy's who wanted their boxes signed of Barbie. It wasn't me. It was a picture of Barbie, by the way. It was a picture of a Barbie doll. It was not me, but they
Oh,
wanted the
okay.
whole shebang. It was hysterical. So I did a like birthday Barbie at Macy's, and but yeah, during Toy Fair week at Mattel in New York City, I was a full-on employed Barbie. And so I was 35th anniversary Barbie. I was quintuplet teen sitting skipper. Wait, quintuplet sitting teen skipper. That was her name. She didn't make it because Walmart said that's too many babies for a teenager to walk. So they got it down to 3. So now it's triplet teen sitting skipper. So Walmart came through and said, that's ridiculous. That's not realistic. Like Barbie's really that realistic in a lot of ways, but I mean, okay. And I was wheelchair Becky one year because they just made the Dream House wheelchair accessible for Barbies. And so I was wheelchair Becky.
Oh my gosh.
It was hysterical. There was a lot of Barbies. Yeah. I did that, and that was great money. I mean, these are all the things I did to make sure I made money while I was living in New York City as a starving actress. So
No, but I mean, it's okay. So, I mean, wow, I would love the full list of all the Barbies that you were. That sounds like so much fun. I mean, there's so many levels of fun there. I imagine it was a lot of work, but what was the audition with Mattel like for Barbie?
you just go in and you basically had to memorize a little script because it was very scripted, and especially for Barbie, Mattel, it was by like to the letter, because their marketing department required that, because you had Target coming through and Walmart and all these big buyers like coming through, and it had to be very scripted what they were trying to cover, all their bullet points. They were the hardest department to work for because, Mattel owns Hot Wheels, Cabbage Patch, and a whole bunch of other lines, but Barbie was their big money maker. And so if you did not have that down and did not do it correctly, I saw girls get fired on the spot. And then they come in and be like, Charity, you need to memorize her script too, and you're going to have to do hers. And I'm like,
Wow.
well, what happened to Emily? Well, Emily's gone now. And I'm like, so it was crazy. It was really crazy. So you had to be on point. And you were talking about for 35th anniversary Barbie, because I was the entrance Barbie. I was like, had to be on. I had this floofy big white dress, and my hair I always had to be floofy, right? Everything was fluffy and big. And
Right.
so, and I was on my feet from like 7 a.m. till like 5 p.m. And so there's minimum breaks. And when I was on break, I had to wear a giant robe to protect my outfit because it was too hard to get in and out of it. I couldn't take it off. That was too complicated. And so, but I
Oh
remember being
my
on the subway, getting there in the mornings at 6 a.m. on the subways, my hair in hot rollers, right, with a hood on. I look like a crazy lady because you want your hair, you had to have your hair perfect, or you're like, someone's gonna fire me today. So, I mean, I never got fired. I always got employed. Even when I moved to Los Angeles, they would fly me back to be Barbie,
Wow.
fly me back
Oh,
to be one of their Barbies. And I finally was the one that said, I just can't fly back anymore. So, yeah.
wow. Did
So,
you get to keep any of the outfits?
oh no,
No.
no. They were
No.
all registered, and they would check our bags every day going into the building to make sure we weren't stealing any Barbie accessories or parts or anything. So you get your bag checked as you left and as you went in. And yeah, they were really strict, high security. And we always had like stars who were collectors come through. Like Demi Moore was a big Barbie collector. She came through with her family every year. She'd bring her kids through. So we had like Tom Hanks came through. He loved Mattel in general because he played for Toy Story. He was,
Right. Right.
yeah. So
Yeah.
he came through, and so we had celebrities coming through. So it was really high security, background checks, you name it. It was probably one of the hardest jobs, but one of the fun jobs I had too. I still have friends from that because we spent hours and hours and hours and hours together. My
Yeah. I mean,
son
what do
was
you
playing as
do as
Barbie.
you're
We all
yeah.
moved. We all moved to Los Angeles together, which is funny. We all migrated and came to the West, all in one big swoop. And so, but yeah, we had a great time. We're all really. It's funny. We're still like a lot of us are still really close. So it's been
Oh
that
my
was
gosh.
fun.
I'm happy to organize a reunion of former Barbie podcast.
Oh yeah, and like some of them are famous now. Like two of them, like they are full on, like they've become like these celebrity status host people. Like Sell This House, she was one of the Barbies. Tanya was one of the hosts for years, and Lisa Guerrero, another one. She was written up in People magazine. Like I'm like, it's so weird when you see a spread and people are like, oh my gosh, it's Lisa. I was a Barbie with her. Like that's kind of crazy.
Yeah, well, it's kind of the age we're at. I think that's why I'm so interested in sort of looking back where people are and different journeys
Yeah.
people have made because I'm finding that either I went to a really talented high school or and University of Florida is a very big college. So, there's a lot of University of Florida alumni that have done a lot of different things, but I think one person leads to another person leads to another person. And before you know it, you're like, wow, all these people are really quite interesting. And it's surprising that I'm only maybe one or two people away from knowing them
Mhm.
directly in a
Yeah.
weird sort of way. We've been on this earth a while, right? So
Yeah.
how long were you Barbie for? Just
I did my first Barbie in 93, January of 93. And I think I did that. Oh my gosh. I want to say till 1999. I was Barbie for
wow.
many years. And that was once a year with a big toy fair. And then they usually hired me again. And then they would hire a few of us during other events, like eventing, like there'd be event things going on. Like, like I said, the Olympics, Macy's always in New York needed a Barbie for something. And we had to be like snuck in through the back and they didn't want anybody to see us. It was really funny. And so we'd all be like, have to sneak in because they didn't want people to see us. And so, yeah, we were like almost like Disney characters, glorified Disney characters, So,
Yeah. And do your children know that you used to be a Barbie?
yeah, I mean, they do. I had because I have some of the Barbies. Like I actually bought, or some people gave me, and they're still in the boxes. And those were off limits. They're not allowed to play with those Barbies because I was like, I have wheelchair Becky. She's still in her box. Like I have I was I think California Barbie one year, and she's all tan. Oh, it's funny. So I have like a few of these Barbies that are in boxes that were always off limits, and they never understood why. And I said, you can have all these other Barbies, you can cut their hair, whatever, but you cannot have, these are very special Barbies. And so, so they knew that I did something, and like they think it's funny that I was a Barbie like that. Cause I have some pretty funny pictures just of us, when I was Barbie forever. So
Oh my God. Okay.
yeah,
You have to send those over, or you have to post them on your Facebook, and I'll be happy to share. Okay.
no,
So
thank you.
now now that you're okay, are you being Barbie and then you're taking on some other jobs too?
Yeah, I mean, those are all temporary. So you have like the shoe show is a certain time of year, and then Mattel's Toy Fair is a certain time of year. And then in between, I would do, um, different jobs to make ends meet. And then it just depended on what I was doing, really. But I did a lot of infomercials. I did like those crazy infomercials like, is this pillow uncomfortable? And I'm the person tossing around going, oh, I hate this pillow, that kind of crazy stuff. Because infomercials and those crazy things were great money. Like one of the first big one that I did, and I thought I brought it in here so I can remind myself, but I think I left it in the other room, was I did when I was still in college at JU, I got hired to do the infomercial for every hotel room in Daytona Beach, to be like, you turn on Daytona Beach, you get a hotel room and things to do in Daytona. I was
Oh my
hired to
God, are you
be,
like Keely from Ted Lasso?
I
Like
was
you were
like,
on you were on, what I'm
yes,
talking about? You were like
yep,
on
Keely,
every
exactly. I was Keely. I was
Oh
that.
my gosh.
Yeah. And I was funny because I still have the videos of it, because I had everything, like you said, converted from VHS to like a digital thing. And I have such a thick Southern accent. It's really funny. I have like this Southern accent. I'm super skinny. I'm like, ooh, I look weird. Like, and I'm supposed to be married, but I'm 19. And the guy I hired was like 30 something, And so, but we're going around Daytona, but it was a great gig. I mean, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is great. Cause I mean, like I made good money, and, so I did a lot of that stuff in between jobs. I get hired to do like these kind of crazy infomercial things or commercial, pieces, but they're all local. So those were the kind of the funny ones that I would do.
I don't think you've mentioned it yet. Did you have an agent, or were you
Yeah.
your own agent?
Yeah, no, I had an agent, and then in New York, back then, a bazillion years ago, you also got it's called backstage. So in backstage, you flip through and see different auditions, because those people usually want to pay an agent. So you go through and be like, oh, I could do that, or I'll submit my headshot for that. So even in Los Angeles, you would do that just to get more foot traction, right? To do more work. And so I was always going through backstage, and then you'd bug your agent about it, because they can only submit so many. Agents can only submit so many. It's usually their top 3 or 4, because they're getting top 3 or 4 from many agents, right? So it was constantly pimping. So it was either, if I got it myself, I would, just book it myself. Or I would tell my agent, like, hey, can you negotiate this? They want to call me in. And they loved it because they were getting, 15% or whatever. So so it just depended on how it worked or what the gig was. But I did a lot of stock photography, and when I did, because I mean, obviously it was all about money. When you're poor and you need money and you have high rent in New York City, you're like, what can I do? That's not like, doing pole dancing. That's going to still, I can not be embarrassed the rest of my life. Right. And so, but I did some stock photography, and it ended up being in every single picture frame in Walmart, all of them. So I still have some of those, and because I was thinking of my aunt or someone walked in, she's like, swear this looks like Charity. And it was me. And so, and we were like in all the picture frames. And so it was kind of the running joke that you could go into any Walmart in the United States at a certain time frame, and you'd find a picture of me in there. I'd be there smiling. So,
Oh my gosh. Well,
yeah.
it's funny because you know, being in the tech industry, and when the price of stock photography started lowering,
Mm-hmm.
I had multiple plastic surgery accounts, and we always used the same girl. And I always thought to myself, if I ever meet this girl, I'm going to be like, I hope you got paid, because by the way, you are on like 20 of our plastic surgery sites,
And
because she had incredible skin, and she had the right smile, and she
yeah.
didn't look stressed. She looked like she was very relaxed, and it was just always the perfect pose that we were looking for. And after a while, some of our customers were like, you got to change up, you got to give me another girl. And
Another
we're like,
girl.
oh, we have to We need to find her and take a different picture of her. But, we were using a lot of that stock photography.
Yeah.
So I hope you got some residuals for the number of times that you used
No,
it, or
you
you
sign
got
a
like a one-time
contract with
fee.
stock, you get a
Yeah.
flat rate. And I did a lot for the same photographer, which is funny. And I really liked him. He was really cool. And, he was really nice. Like I really liked him. He paid well too, which was nice. So he paid you for your time. He knew you were going to make anything else. What was funny was one of the pictures, though, because he would sell the pictures, right? And so one of the pictures ended up on the cover of my sister's, I think it's my sister's, one of her books for school. So I'm on the cover.
What book?
And she's like, what? I think it was like health, life science or something. And it's me, like, we're playing baseball. We're like, and I'm got, we're all like coming from playing a fun, it's like softball game. We're like, wow. And she's like, I'm pretty sure this is my sister. And I'm like, yep, that's me. And so, so things would randomly pop up that I didn't even know were occurring it was me. And so I don't know where that one is. It's in my tear sheet book. It's there. I have it in my tear sheet book. But yeah, so that kind of crazy stuff would happen where you're on a cover of a book and you're all over Walmart. And so crazy stuff. That's how you make a living when you're like just trying to make ends meet. And, you're like, okay, sure, I'll do that. And you're naive. You don't know any better anyway, but.
Well, when you were in New York and you were married to a husband in the same industry as you, did he help you get cast in anything? Or did you
No,
guys ever
no,
work together? Or that just wasn't,
no.
that was just kind of frowned upon?
Well, part of it was that the people that they were managing, like their contracts they were doing for these crazy talented actors and actresses were on Broadway. Those people are a whole other level of talent. Like they're triple threats, right? They can sing and dance and act their way out of anything. And I was strong in acting. I would say singing second, dancing definitely third, right? And so I always said I was not that coordinated of a dancer. I was faked a lot of it. So I was like, no, it's not my thing. So those people were like wickedly talented, and and then I get to see them because for a while in New York, as another job that I had in New York, I was a swing dresser for Miss Saigon. Now he did help me get that because I had to get into the union. I had to be in the costume union. I had gotten a costume minor at JU too during my time there. Just because I loved, you do so many hours. I ended up with a costume minor because it was fun to work in the costume department. So I ended up working that as one of my just a fun night job. But a swing means I had to know all of their routes for Miss Saigon, and I would come in as people were out or whatnot. That was a crazy job in itself, but really, really fun. Like talk about a fun, fast-paced job. That was amazing. So, and paid well, so I would do that at night if I wasn't, busy doing something else. But yeah,
Wow.
so that was the only crossover really, because those people were, like I said, amazingly talented. And it was a whole different level. Like they're at a Broadway level. And I wasn't Broadway material.
Yeah, that's another thing I was really wondering about because, I knew you had always done, some modeling and that made sense. And then I knew you were gifted on the piano and dancing, I probably danced more than you did. But you and I would try to do fun
Yeah.
coordinated dances and some of the things, obviously Miss Fletcher's opening number that's
Oh
out
yeah.
there in
That
the
was
universe
awesome.
right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lots of dancing, but I knew dancing wasn't like your number one passion. So yeah, curious to hear that, if you're going to go into theater, you definitely have to be sort of high in all three of those.
Yeah, if you're
So
gonna go into Broadway musicals, for sure. Like those people that
yeah.
they were casting for Miss Saigon had the most, or not Miss Saigon dancing, all three, right? But like Les Mis, Phantom, your voice is that it's all voice based. Like really, Phantom of the Opera is a, definitely operatic, right? So, those people's voices were insane, just insane. Mine was more theater. And then a lot of the times the theater, like I did some off-Broadway theater productions, and some that like one was a traveling one that was really for like, I forgot the name of it, but it was like for up in upper state New York. We did it and it won a Pulitzer Prize that the play had. And so we were going around there like to high schools essentially, because it was all about like emotions and this and da, 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 like, you know, so we did all this kind of crazy stuff again, because you know, it was a job. It was my job. So, but that, I mean, the stuff that you'd audition for that were on that Broadway level were just a whole nother level of people that they knew you and you're a crazy, crazy performer. And also being the right place in the right time. I mean, that really does have a lot to do with it. Like
Yeah,
having
I was
that
wondering
right
about
look at the right
the
time, you know?
yeah, the
So
luck factor and the networking
yeah,
and, you know, and it's so subjective. And,
yeah,
you know, I recorded an earlier podcast with a mother of 2 boys who her boys wanted to get into modeling, and, you know, she's teaching them early that if they don't get the job, it's not anything that they really did.
yeah,
They just didn't either have the right look, they didn't have the right timing, you know,
yeah.
they were looking for something else. And so, yeah, you're not supposed to take it personally, which I imagine. Do you have any story where you really thought like you nailed it and you were really excited, and then maybe you didn't get it and you had to sort of brush it off or
Yeah.
anything like that?
Um,
Give some people some
oh my
hope that,
gosh.
you
I
know.
don't know. I had so many auditions. It's insane. I would say like in Los Angeles for sure, there was one that I really thought was going to go, like it was really going to go. And you know, you're thinking it's going to, and like you said, it wasn't about my performance. It was about the production company. It was too expensive based in network, and it's really network. And so that's when reality television was really becoming popular, like
Yeah.
Survivor, The Weakest Link came on, like all these shows. So like the one I was doing was it had 3 major stars in it. It had Patrick Dempsey. I was playing his girlfriend. It had Tom Skerritt was also playing the dad, and then it had I forgot her name, but she is pretty famous and was like I want to say like Battlestar Galactica. Like they all had massive resumes and were very expensive. So high expense minus me. I was a nobody, but you know, they had all these other people that was very expensive. But The Weakest Link came in to play at the same time slot, very inexpensive to make. They don't have to pay a host, and they won out for network because they go, well, this is a lot cheaper, and we're basically putting that on the shelf. So it would have been amazing had it been a go. My life probably been very different, you know, but it didn't, you know. So you have to kind of be like, well, that wasn't supposed to happen.
Yeah,
Moving on.
that's not my journey, and I think at this point
Yeah.
in our lives, we can kinda look back and be like, "Well, of course that wasn't supposed to happen because now I'm
Yeah.
here, and now I'm with this person, and now I have this family, and now I find myself
Yeah.
over in this place." So, you know, that's the other thing we kinda say here on Decision Diaries. There are no bad decisions, and there are
Yeah.
no, because it just kind of is what it is, and there's no regrets or do-overs, but there's moments where you kind of grow and you learn something new, and that's one of the things we like sharing here is, "Hey, you didn't get it, you got over it. I don't see you crying right now. I
Yeah, I mean,
you're
it
not in
is.
a
You just
fetal
kind of move
position."
on. Yeah, you just kind
Yeah,
of move on. It's kind of like when I just took the decision to move out of being completely an actress after years and years and years. That was a really tough decision to do because it'd been a part of my life since I was a little girl. I mean, I'd been doing it forever, like since I was little. So yeah, you kind of have to be at peace with it. And I remember like going to a movie with my husband Pete now. And when I'd said, okay, enough is enough, I was kind of done. It was when I remember like the moment I just said, I can't do this anymore because I was on set doing another co-star role for
uh-huh.
some show for what I think it was Warner Brothers. And all the people on this who were the main stars were all like 17 through 19. And they're like, I can't believe how much money I'm making. And here I am like
Oh,
struggling to just put gas in my car to get there to do the role that I was supposed to do. And I feel like a grandmother. I'm like, you know what? I am done with this. But it was one of those things I was just kind of over it. You kind of get over it because you're like, they don't realize how amazing this opportunity is. And you've struggled and like worked your way, you know. And then I was like, I don't know if I can do this anymore. I remember going, I'm like, I don't know if I can do this anymore. And so it was one of those moments. And then having like that moment of, because, you know, in that life, you run into movie stars all the time. Like I was
Right.
meeting all kinds of people in my life that I was either being a stand-in for, like Michelle Pfeiffer. I did stand-in work for her and in New York and things like that. That you're like, and so we went to a movie and Michelle Pfeiffer was the character, and I remember just like losing it. Like I'm walking away from this, and that's what I was doing, you know. And it was a really that was a moment. I was like, it was like you said, a final moment of clarity of, am I really walking away from this? Am I really doing that? You know? And so
Right.
it was hard to watch that and people I met, you know, on the screen. And you're like, oh my gosh, I had a conversation with this person, you know, like, and that was really, it was that was the defeating moment. You're like, okay, am I done? Am I done? I'm walking to something, I'm doing something else now, which is good. Like you said, no regrets, because I've had a great career. There's a lot more flexibility when you go into doing something totally different. You're pretty much tied, you know, to an agent and their callbacks and being on set. And I missed a lot of family, you know, weddings and funerals and family events and things I just couldn't do because I'd be like, sorry, I'm on call, or I have to go to this, and you are tied to that. That's your life. So that it was, the other flip side was that it was freeing, all of a sudden going into like, oh, I can set my own schedule and I can go on a vacation,
Right.
and I have health insurance now. I've never had health insurance. Oh my gosh, that was a big deal. You know, like there's things that you're like, okay, this is the trade-off. You know, like you said, do I
Right.
have a
Right.
family? Am I going to have a family? Is that going to happen in my life? Like, you know, those things that some of my colleagues never did. They sacrificed relationships and having children, and they're still going at it. And I'm just kudos to them. But like, you know, you have to make those hard decisions for sure.
Yeah, it is tough. And you know, I did hear, and I'm so bad with names. Okay, so my husband can name actors, like we'll be watching a movie and he can name actors and actresses. I'm so bad. I usually just know them as like the last character they played. But the gym guy from The Office, I forget what his name
Yeah.
was.
Yeah.
Okay, so I saw him in an interview where he talked about, you know, calling his mom
Mm-hmm.
and telling his mom, you know, because at this point he's waiting tables somewhere and he's trying to become an actor and has left college. And calling his mom and saying, do you think I should be done? And she was like, hey, don't put that on me. Like, don't put, you know, don't put that on me. Like, you're not going to quit your dream because your mother said, you
Your
know,
mother told you
said,
so. Yeah.
said, oh yeah, you know, you're done. She instead said, look, give it 6 months. You'll know when you're going to know when you're going to know.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, when my older son, one of those 2020 grads, decided to quit college and pursue a very, what I call, non-traditional path of pursuing professional jiu-jitsu and moving to Austin, Texas to do that. I was like, go for it. I mean,
Yeah.
you're gonna know when you're gonna know. He's doing some modeling, so he is getting some money for some photo shoots. I've told him he should have been, you know, that he's out in Austin and he should be doing more modeling to pay his bills. But instead, he's taking the approach of, and maybe you have done this too. So I will tie this back to our conversation. Maybe you've done this too, but my son is subsidizing his rent by bringing in people with similar interests to, you
Mm-hmm.
know, sleep on his couch so that they have opportunities too. So they're kind of a jujitsu support group.
Oh
And
wow.
some people come in from Australia and Japan because Austin is very big. This particular jujitsu place is very big and tracks international people, and they don't want to, you know, pay for the residence inn or Airbnb.
Right.
They don't mind sleeping on someone's couch. So did
Yeah.
you ever like lend out your apartment to like Jessica or some of your other friends to like
Oh
sleep on
yeah.
your couch
Oh
and
yeah.
try out for things? And
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, absolutely. Like when, we always have, I mean, if you live in New York City, you're going to have a revolving door of visitors. There's no doubt. And people coming up. And when Jessica decided to come and move to New York, it didn't take her long to find a place, but you know, like it was always an option. Like we only had a 1 bedroom, and so you could sleep on the futon in the living room. That's fine, you know. So But yeah, always, it was always an open door policy. In Los Angeles, I had probably more people come and stay at our apartment who were needing a place to, as a step, like just a middle ground time. Right. And it was always fun. I mean, when you are no children and you're running around Venice Beach and it's just like another person added to the party, right? You're like, sure, this is fun, so it was a lot of fun. And obviously, one of the things that I love doing now is which I think is just my human nature, and one of my things I love doing is giving back to people or helping people in whether it's cooking for my neighborhood or people who need anything, right? Just say no, that I can help. I'm there for them. And so, if they need to come stay or do whatever, it's always an open door policy. And so, yeah, absolutely. But again, it was like one of my acting buddies from New York. He was moving out to Los Angeles and had randomly reached out to me to see if I had a place to stay. Well, I actually needed a roommate. And so I was like, yeah, come live with me. Just come live with me. I need a roommate. And him and my husband became the best of friends. Like when we got married, he did not want to kick John out. John and him went to breakfast every morning, like little 2 peas in a pod. Go have their breakfast. He's like, really? Does John really have to move out? Does he? I was like, it'd be nice to have another bedroom. We have one bathroom. There's 3 people here. We have one bathroom. I'm like, yeah. I mean, at some point, John's going to have to go.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, John lived with us forever. Like it was just a fun time. That happened frequently.
Did you know anybody in Los Angeles? Just went?
Yeah, I actually knew a couple of people. Just like I had a couple of sorority sisters who lived out there that I'd known obviously for a long time. They actually went to Fletcher too. Michelle Crispin, Michelle Crispin was one of my mentors and sorority sisters. I was in Gamma Phi at JU, and she was obviously one of the reasons I joined Gamma Phi, and she was amazing. And so yeah, so I knew a couple of people, but so it made it a little much more interesting and fun because I had people to lean on. So she would invite me to different things that she was doing, or hey, do you want to be a backup singer for this thing I'm doing, this gig I'm doing? I'm like, sure, I'll be a backup dancer singer thingy, so so I did know some, just a couple of people, but not a lot, and then all the Barbie Mattel people, we all kind of moved out at mass exodus, so we all knew each other.
Oh yeah.
So,
yeah. Well, one of the debuts that you did not mention was the one that you and I were in Indianapolis Jones.
Oh, that's right.
Within our neighborhood.
Gosh.
So,
Yes.
the neighborhood, there was a guy who created a spinoff of Indiana Jones, and that's why it was called Indianapolis Jones. And my sister was the heroine, I guess. And then they needed 2 girls to be like the showgirls or whatever.
Yes,
oh my God, do you remember that? And so you and I dressed up in like some of my bad like dance leotards, and
oh my gosh,
my family had a pool room, and we were only on there for a little while. And so it's really kind of funny that little neighborhood putting on like a little movie, and then you remember we had the screening at like the pizza place. So just as you were mentioning Michelle Crispin, I was like, I believe I saw her in a lot of plays as well, and extremely talented.
Really
I don't know where she ended up, but it makes
sense.
In
California. Yeah.
Okay.
And she's still in the music business. Yeah. She's another Facebook friend of mine, and she's still in the music business. And she's just really talented. She always was.
Wow.
So,
wow. Well, I know it's so interesting to be surrounded by so many talented people. So were you, I'm going to give this away. Were you in LA when you got the casting to be on Friends?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Talk to me about take us through, what did you do to apply for Friends, and how did you?
Well, my agent at the time, and I had done a couple of other roles for Warner Brothers. I'd done For Your Love and Suddenly Susan. So they knew me at Warner Brothers. And so as far as you become on a regular list. to be called in for certain roles, or they just know that you're reliable and you can perform under pressure. And so, so my agent at the time, I got the call to go in to audition, and just like any normal audition, I auditioned, did the audition, you get called back. I remember like my air conditioning for some reason wasn't working in my car or something happened. I got there and I was really sweaty. I was just sweaty from all that. I literally remember going to the bathroom and taking my skirt off and pulling like the blowery thing. I was like, oh my God, I'm so I was sweating through my skirt. That's how sweaty I was. And so I'm like, I'm a sweaty Betty, right? What's going on? Because I was in velvet. It was this cute little
Oh my gosh.
outfit, but I was sweating. I was worried they were going to like look at my butt and look at her. Oh my God, she's sweating. And so I'm like, oh my God. So, so I got the role. And then you, as a co-star, you're on set for a week. So you're just on set for a week to do all the, blocking and set. And they do a lot of pre-recording for some of them, and some of them are live. So I was a mixture of mainly the live, and then some pre-recording. And so, since you're there the whole week, you get to know the rest of the cast, which was really cool. So I got to meet, obviously, all the members of Friends. That was really nice, minus Matthew Perry, because Matthew, even at that time, he had a chaperone with him at all times, because he was he was definitely going through like another rehab session. So he was really you weren't allowed any contact with him. So I didn't really get to know him, but I got to know Matt LeBlanc because my scenes were with Matt. And then like Courtney Cox and Jennifer Aniston, they were amazingly friendly. They're so tiny. They were tiny little. I thought I was small at the time. They're like little tiny people. They're like these little tiny adorable people. And they were super bubbly and friendly and so nice. I was like, these are the nicest people ever. Like it was really a really cool experience. And so, I don't think the time I realized what a big deal it was. Like I was just like, oh, okay, I booked it, and okay, that's great, because I'd done these other two shows, but the ones I'd done were like with Brooke Shields, which is Suddenly Susan at the time.
Yeah,
it was a much bigger role. Yeah, and then that actually was a really cool role. It was a much bigger role, and so I really liked Brooke Shields. She was such a lovely person, and so doing this one, I was like, okay, I got on Friends. So at the time, you don't realize it. Well, at the time, we didn't realize how big Friends was going to get again. You know what I mean? Like,
what's
a big thing.
What season? Well, you have to back up for a second. What season was this, and what was the name of your character?
I don't know if I had a name. I don't know. I'd have to look that up. But it was the one with Joy's Porsche. He finds keys to her Porsche. But Joy finds keys to her Porsche, and I think it was in '96. I have to look at like what episode it was. If you Google it, you'll find it. You'll find look up episode Joy finds keys to a Porsche, and it'll tell you the name of which episode number it was. I was actually trying to find. I know we did this episode last minute, but I was trying to find. I think I have the original script somewhere downstairs. Like I have the script.
Oh, okay. But wasn't your character like the hot girl?
It was like this chick, or that it was like some random occurrence. Yeah.
Like you came through there as like, ooh, look,
hi.
She's hi.
La la la. Yeah, exactly. There was her name. She was like some chick, or something. I don't know. It was random. And then,
well, I'm happy to hear that everybody was super friendly, and
and
that's kind of what you hope for. And part of the cool part of that industry is when you do land something, you become a little mini family, like your Barbie family and probably your Foot family, and then you've got your theater family, and so now you've got this Friends family. And you kind of clued me in before we started recording that the Friends family could have been maybe more than a family.
It was at the end of the wrap up. Two of my friends got to come and watch me tape. And so they got to come during the live audience session. And David Schwimmer approached me afterwards and he was like, oh, such a great job, blah, blah. And he did. And he asked, do you want to go out sometime? And I immediately said, no, I've got a boyfriend. Like I was some crazy, had a headgear and no, I've got a boyfriend. Sorry, everybody. And my friends were like, are you crazy? Do you realize what just happened just now? And it didn't even occur to me. Like I literally just walked out like la 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 la. And they're like, David Schwimmer just asked you out. He just asked you out. And you said no. Are you sure you don't want to go back and like revisit that? You know, like, and I was like,
Yeah.
well, why would I do that? You know, like it was so, and after I was like, oh man, maybe I really did screw up. Maybe I screwed up, you know? And so I got called in again for I got called in to audition for something else. And once you're on a show like Friends or any of those co-stars, you're written out of the entire show for a year. You cannot audition. Like I couldn't audition for Friends again because I'd already just done an episode, and unless they write you back in as that character. Right. And so,
right. Yeah. Because you are that character
yeah,
for that season. Yeah.
yeah. And so I was on set again, auditioning for something else, something for Grace, something, I think it was one of the Grace shows. And so, but anyway, I ran into him and he was there, and the cast was like, oh my gosh, it's so good to see you. You know, like they were so cute again. They just had me in the hallway. And I remember like, oh my gosh, did I screw up? I totally did not go out with David Schwimmer because I was dating my husband at the time. You know, we've been dating for a while. And so I was like, you know, oh my God, what did I do? And so I was really distraught. Like it would have, like, think of that would have pivoted your life in a whole nother direction.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. I don't even know. Is he?
That didn't even work out, right? You know,
yeah.
When we were like doing our thing or whatever. But yeah, so it was just random that I didn't even think about it. I didn't think twice. I was just like, oh no, I'm dating someone, la la la. And they're both like, have you lost your mind? I was like,
you know, hey, you know when you know, and you know, I don't know how long you were dating your husband at the time, but you know, my husband and I's first date, and you know, we've got some great episodes of deciding to get married and also deciding to go to marriage counseling. but our first date was a blind date, and you know, we were on that date for about 14, 20 hours. And I would say that 2 weeks later, I was writing in my diary that like, he's the one. Like, I just, I mean, at that point, I don't think it didn't matter if you were Brad Pitt. Well, maybe if you were Brad Pitt, but if you were Brad Pitt and would have asked me out, I think my reaction would have been the same as yours. Like, oh, wait a second. I just got a boyfriend. I almost screwed this up. So
yeah,
good for you.
A few months. And also, it's one of those, like, do you want to give up, this relationship that you feel like is going really well? And I am still head over heels for my husband. He's wonderful. Good guy. And then what if it doesn't work out? What if he drops me like a hot potato because I'm just there's a next best thing, right? Because he has the money and he can do whatever he wants, right? I don't know. Who knows? Right. And so, so that was kind of the fun thing that happened when I was on set. And I was kind of like, oh man, did I screw up? But no, but then I wouldn't have my two amazing daughters, right? And I read a good book recently that really, I think, settled everything for me. It really made things go, oh, okay. Like you said, things happen and they're supposed to happen, whether or not it's, good or bad. It's called The Midnight Library. I don't know if you've ever read it, but have you read it? Okay. Yeah. Great book, because she takes all these different paths, right? That could have happened with her life, and they weren't always good. And it's kind of like, look, your path is your path. Yes, you have opportunities to make bad decisions and good decisions or change things, but doing what ifs is really not doing you any favors. A what if situation is not doing anything. So I was like, oh yeah, you know what? I just gotta let that go. So, I mean, after I read that book, I was like, oh yeah, I'm letting that go. So, because it was such a good way. It was written about like, and like we are because where we need to be, right? We're here. I'm in Oregon now because that's where we needed to be. I'm with the person I'm supposed to be with, and we have two amazing daughters. I couldn't have asked for better teenagers. I hear teenagers, and I'm really good. I'm 14, 17-year-old, and they really are good kids. So I'm like, wow, we kind of lucked out. So like, we're all in the spot we're supposed to be, right? Like, it just happened. I was given an opportunity to move into medical sales when I did from acting. And it was an opportunity I kept saying no to, and then it kept coming back and coming back and coming back again. Right. And after like 5 times, I said, Pete's like, why don't you just give it a go and see what happens? Just, it seems to keep coming back to you. Why don't you just see what happens? And I did. And it was probably one of the best decisions I ever made, is to change, just let's switch
Well,
into a totally different
it is
career.
kind of funny that we all kind of ended up in some weird healthcare space. I'm in healthcare tech, and you're you know, you're in the medical sales, and so it's like,
Yeah.
huh, are all the 50-year-olds in the healthcare industry?
I don't
But
know, you
yeah,
know?
it is kind of funny. Well, I still, you know, do you model at all? Or, you know, I mean, do you still, anybody ever approach you with some modeling at this point? Or if they did,
No.
would you do it? Or at this point, you're like, I made that decision. I'm comfortable with it. I'm moving on.
Um, I did a little bit when Liliana, my youngest, my oldest, we lived in San Francisco. Like, we lived in Alameda, San Francisco area. And so she was approached at a playground. And so I did a little bit with her, because she got booked all the time as a baby, like all the time. And so, but it's a lot of work. I mean, it's a lot of work to have
Yeah.
a baby and taking them to places, and pottery born kids, like, and I'm like, I'm sorry, it's nap time. And they're like, no, she has to be here now. I'm like, no, this is so weird. And so it's a lot of work. And even when I was a mom and I get asked to do a few things, you know, you really have to have no schedule. You have to have like all this
Yeah.
free time to do that schedule. And I really like I've set my own schedule with work, and for the most part, right? And I love that I still get to I should see horses behind me. I lease a horse down the road, and I still take, we call it our life learning lessons every Thursday. It's the same group of ladies. At 10 a.m. on a Thursday. I block that out of my schedule. If I can do it, I'm going to be there, right? It's you can't do that with that if you're going to do any type of modeling or doing that. It's on their schedule.
Yeah,
And,
well,
you
I
know,
think that's kind of the big takeaway, right?
mm,
So if you're talking to somebody out there and you're kind of telling them, you know, this is what your life could look like.
yeah,
It sounds like what you're saying is your life is going to be somewhat unstructured, kind of beck and call.
yeah, it is.
Yeah,
I don't know how much it's changed with the technical world, like technology wise. And I mean, back in the day, you're running yourself ragged around the city. You know, even when I was doing that in Jacksonville, like you had to run all over the place and give people like your picture cards and show them your book and all this stuff. I'm sure it's much easier now. A lot of it's online, you know, but you are at their beck and call for their schedule, because they have to schedule all these people to be for these shoots and whatnot, these photo shoots. And so, or for acting in that reason, you know, that was the same thing. To be on set, you basically, you had to be available or you just wouldn't get booked. And the more times you said, no, I can't do that, the less you're going to get called. So, I mean, it is their beck and call. I mean, it's on their schedule. When you are at the time, that's not your time. You know, that's
right.
their time. So, and you're being
Right,
paid.
right, and until, I mean, you know, technology can involve, you know, it obviously super has evolved, and, you know, now we can FaceTime, and now with 2020, there was a lot of, you know, oh, okay, maybe casting calls can be remotely and all like that, but we still haven't figured out how to teleport. So
Yeah,
until we can
yeah.
actually teleport, then, you know, you might have to get on a plane, you might have some travel. Would you also recommend to people, what would you recommend more, New York or LA, if you had to choose one location to kind of
Um,
pursue your dream? Which way would you feel people get more opportunities?
I think it depends on what you want to do, to be honestly. New York was definitely for theatrical, like Broadway. Also commercials, if you want to do commercials, that's New York actually does a lot of commercial work, at least when I was there. Los Angeles is definitely television. I mean, it just depends on what you want to do. I actually really loved living in New York City. It was such a magical place and very fun, and you could walk to everything and just spontaneously, oh, we're by the Lincoln Center. Let's go pop in there and get a ticket. You know, like you could do all these random, wonderful things. It was really very cool place to live. Los Angeles was not that way. I found Los Angeles to be a lot colder. People actually be a little more, you just say sleazy, but a little bit more sleazy.
Yeah.
Just a
Yeah.
little more like Hollywoodish, right? Like, oh, I'm going to do all these favors and then they don't, like it was more, they just wanted to go out with you, So New York was not like that. They were very upfront, told you if they liked you, didn't like you. I actually liked it better as far as that, just the personality of people. But honestly, it depends on what, if you want to go into television, you need to be in Los Angeles for movies, TV work. That's definitely where it is. If you want to do theatrical, then you need to be in New York.
Yeah, and then the other, I was just thinking as you were talking about, did you ever I don't think I asked you this question yet. Did you ever have to take, like, additional acting classes? Or, was there somebody that was always trying to kind of what I picture, because I did not live this life, but what I picture is there's always somebody saying, "Oh, I can help you if you take my classes, or if you do a new photo shoot, or I give you new headshots." It
Yeah.
seems like there's a lot of that that's out in LA that is kind of one of those things that I could see people falling into a trap
Oh
of,
yeah. Yeah. I mean,
right?
there definitely is. And I even fell into those traps in New York. Like there's, like, oh, we do your photo shoot. And we have all these connections to make your, blah, blah. And honestly, they were just making money to make you a little flimsy car that you could have done yourself. Right. And so, and the same thing, like, you have to be careful with what people are offering to do for you with that. And the legit agents they will not ask you for a thing. They want you to be talented and to build your resume. They'll refer you to some good photographers for headshots. That's always good. But they're not going to take any money. The legit ones will not take any money from you. They're not supposed to.
All right, so you heard it here, everyone.
Yeah.
If you're aspiring, you are not to just go and fork out some money
No, no.
to the first person that comes along and says that they're gonna make you a star. I see how
Yeah.
it's really tempting. I will tell you, kind of in the tech startup community, it's kind of a similar conversation. It's like, well, if you have a startup software company, which I had a couple, or I was part of a couple, it was like, well, if you give me 30% of your company, then, at least you're making $30 as opposed to $0,
Mm-hmm.
or you're making a portion of dollars that you weren't making if you wouldn't have given up all of this. And you have to be careful. You have to really kind of navigate through,
Yeah.
what am I getting and what am I risking? And could I do it, bootstrapping, or an easier way? And then, we also go back to, hey, subsidize your rent with all your friends who are on the
I,
same path with you. And if you get together financially, maybe you can all share the same photographers, share the same agents, everybody
yeah. I mean,
kind of
that's
collaborating and being a
exactly.
community.
I was going to say,
Yeah.
I took acting lessons in New York City pretty intermittently, but I did still take them to, just to keep things going. And because they would bring in people to watch acting classes. And I did the same thing. I took Larry Moss for a while in Los Angeles too. And but those all came from referrals from agents, right? Like if you just
Right.
need to keep your chops up, to like be working, doing something while you're not doing something, it was a great opportunity to do that. Like I mean, I kept taking them for quite some time that, just to keep things going, like just to keep things moving and doing. And also, like you said, networking opportunities. But I would definitely say to anyone who wants to do this at all, I mean, it's okay to call. Like Peter Strain was my agent in Los Angeles. They're a very legitimate agency, right? And to call, to say, hey, I'm starting off. I'm just looking for if I just wanted to take some classes, can you recommend? Usually they are very friendly on the phone to say, yeah, this is who I'd recommend. Because you can find a bazillion people and be like, oh, I can do this, whatever. But like, like legitimately, some of the best ones, like the Groundlings in Los Angeles. That is a
Oh,
legitimate,
okay.
great, right? So Second City in Chicago, another great one. So I mean, those are legit. Those are good,
Right.
and these are great to keep your chops up. They are going to give you classes, but I mean, anybody can call a good agent and say, I'm just trying to find some guidance, right? And lean on them for that, because I've been out of it forever. But that's the first thing I would do. And that's how my agents are like, oh, you should take some classes with Larry Moss. He's really great. And I was like, oh, okay. So did it just to keep my chops up and to meet people and, kind of, be in the know of what was going on in the industry. I definitely recommend that.
I mean, that is very, very solid advice that didn't cost anybody a thing.
That's right. Just listen to this podcast. You'll learn everything.
Exactly. Oh my gosh. Well, okay. So I have a few assignments for you before we go here and wrap it up. Gotta get the Barbie pictures. Very, very topical.
I'll just text them to you. I will text them to you on my phone.
Yeah, definitely have to get that. I know you had that Friends video out, or the episode comes out every now and then. Love to kind of share that back out. Put a person behind that character that comes in for an episode. If everybody's always wanted to know who is that person and what have they done, and I mean. And the foot modeling is something I can't even remember your feet.
They're small.
But I know that your feet were not flat like my feet, because you and I never shared shoes or outfits, during those teen years where everybody's exchanging clothes. You and I have never exchanged shoes for sure. No. And so the foot modeling is just something that I've come out of this with it's just kind of funny that you did that. But what I love about this, and thank you so much for coming on, is reuniting with old friends and seeing how far we've all come from a poorly taped version of Indiana Jones in our neighborhood.
Oh my God!
To being on Suddenly Susan and Friends. I mean, who knew, right? Who knew that
right
this
place,
is
right
your
time.
journey?
Right place, right time, and some talent sprinkled in there, maybe. So, but that's a lot of it.
And if anybody has any questions for our wonderful guests, please leave some comments. We are international, so if anybody has questions internationally, those episodes are probably flowing around internationally, and people are watching them, and Friends is catching on, across the universe. Almost like a second wind again. I feel like it's being mentioned more in movies. So you just don't know. You might be on some Friend alumni show down the road, right? Some people were talking about bringing like a different version back. I don't know, but I'm old school. I'm going to stay with the old one.
It'll never be the same. That's the thing.
It will never be the same.
That chemistry was tight. That's just this show's just, it's like The Office. It will never be the same.
No, it's one-time gold.
It's a one-time done.
Right. That's how I feel about Ted Lasso as well. So I hope to see you when I'm in the Portland area, or when you come to Jacksonville. Please come by and visit us. I don't think this will be the only podcast you're on. I do have somebody who did race professional horses, and we have a whole horse series of podcasts, I think, coming up, different levels of Kentucky Derby podcast, because I will be going to the Kentucky Derby this year. So
oh my gosh, how fun is that?
Yeah, it's one of my list things that I want to do. So thanks again. And I'm going to put a little shout out. I don't know which social media I'm supposed to be pimping out these days, but I will say we are on Instagram, and I do have a Facebook page for Decision Diaries. I am always looking for interesting podcast guests. And it's so funny to me that some people think they're not interesting, but I disagree. I think everybody has something interesting to offer. And as Charity mentioned before, we're all here to help each other, give each other advice. And so, we're kind of at that age. We've learned a few things. So please come on and join us. And remember, you don't make bad decisions. There's no do-overs, no what ifs. It is what it is, and it's funny, and there's great stories, and it's life. Life is just decisions, right?
Love it. I love it.
Love it.